Welcome to the SDR DiscoCall vidcast and podcast, a show designed for brand new sales reps working in the world of tech sales. I'm your host, Neil Bhuyian, and I'm going to be taking you on a journey on the SDR DiscoCall vidcast and podcast. Did you know that you can watch this show live with the guests on YouTube? This show is available on YouTube at happyselling.io. Hello, listeners and watchers. Welcome to another episode of the SDR DiscoCall podcast / vidcast. So you may be listening to this through your local podcast system, or you may be watching this through our YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to both. But again, if you'd like to watch this show live, then by all means, head over to happyselling.io on YouTube and you'll be able to watch it and see our guests. But today I've been really excited about bringing this guest on. This is somebody that I was speaking to on LinkedIn, as I find most of my guests when I'm prospecting like an SDR. And I met this person, we had a great chat, and I learned a lot about them through their career of sales and obviously what they were going through within their own personal life, and I had a lot of respect for this person. So I'd love to introduce Charlotte Neal. Charlotte, how are you doing today, miss?
Hi, Neil. Thanks for having me. What an introduction. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be on the show.
Thank you so much for joining. And for the listeners and for the watchers out there, Charlotte, could you tell us, who are you? Where are you based in the world? And what do you do? And where is that?
Yeah, of course. So my name's Charlotte Neal. I'm a Senior Enterprise Employee Engagement Specialist. So that's the title that we use for our SDRs at Reward Gateway. So we're an employee engagement tech and service business. And I am based in London, where it is actually sunny for the first time ever this year.
Indeed, we've been having a little bit of a heat wave here in sunny Blighty. So for the listeners and watchers, as a reference, we're currently in July 2021. And with Reward Gateway, what do you guys do at a high level, Charlotte?
Yeah, so at a high level, we create solutions for clients like McDonald's, Tesco, Burger King, O2, Vodafone, Sky, and we support them with creating platforms that enhance employee engagement in their business. So housing everything from their benefits to their well-being, their recognition, and their employee communications. And then the service part of that is that we build a partnership with them and work with them over long periods of time to help support the rollout of that and make it really effective.
I love it. So I'm in a kind of similar world, and I've been in your world before. So as I said in the last meetup, I definitely need to pick your brain in the future for employee engagement and comms. But we can take that offline. But also just in general, outside of sales, what kind of things do you like to get up to, and kind of what floats your boat, Charlotte?
Yeah, so I found a real love for fitness actually over lockdown. So hired a spin bike, been doing a lot of classes with that. I also play netball, but we're not playing at the moment. And our team name, which is hilarious, is the Nespresso Martinis, which I can't take credit for, but I enjoy it a lot. And
I love that.
What else do I get up to? I really love live music, which obviously has hit me quite hard over lockdown. So I like going to a lot of festivals, gigs, live music with my friends. I'm also quite into fashion and shopping and shoes, like most women.
I love it. Well, thank you for giving us an insight as to who you are and where you're based in the world. I'm really looking forward to today's show and kind of helping inspire other SDR listeners and watchers out there. So in terms of your career, so again, for those that are listening in, but for those that are watching, we're going to just quickly share our screen to visit Charlotte's lovely LinkedIn profile, just to give a bit of an idea as to kind of your journey to date. So obviously, looking through your LinkedIn profile, and I love the branding on this and the profile picture, what we can see is obviously you studied Say again?
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. It's a new picture, thank God. I did it just in time for this podcast.
I love it. Absolutely love it. But as we can see, studying at university, multimedia journalism, and you actually have been a presenter, and I'm a little bit intimidated, so please give me any coaching notes at the end of this session today. But you've been a presenter, you've worked in media companies such as NewsQuest, you've also been a content editor at Reach PLC, you've been an online reporter for the Daily Mirror, and then you've come into the world of SaaS tech as an SDR. So again, Charlotte, for our listeners and watchers, please could you walk us through your journey of like where you started and how did you get here today?
I know, it's such a random transition, isn't it? And I think that anyone looking at that would be like, how on earth have you gone from being a reporter at the Daily Mirror to working in SaaS tech? But I think for me, actually, the skills are quite transferable, and that's something that became apparent to me quite quickly. But being a journalist was always the dream. Had a big goal of being a Sky Sports presenter. So cliche, but that was the goal. And I did some presenting stuff while I was at uni. I studied multimedia journalism. I did some stuff with AFC Bournemouth while I was at uni, which was really fun. So I did a bit of presenting stuff with them. And then, nice. So when I came out of uni, I started working as a junior reporter for my local newspaper at home. The Southern Daily Echo gets a bit of a shout out, a Hampshire Chronicle, and worked there for a while. Just kind of worked my way up through the ranks in local journalism until I was an editor, and then I got a role at the Daily Mirror. But yeah, it kind of, I was a journalist for I think maybe 4 years, and over the time that I'd studied and then worked as a journalist, the role had really changed into something that wasn't really what I'd hoped for anymore. And it's not to say it's a bad career path, it's absolutely not, but I just think for me, because I'm a sensitive little Sally and I can admit that, I just found it quite challenging because a lot of the time there was stories that were quite hard to cover, like gruesome murder cases. I was going to court and covering like some quite nasty heavy stuff, and it really took a toll on me, and I got quite ill. So I kind of had 3 months where I was really unwell, like nobody could really figure out what was wrong with me, and I just thought, I think I need to have a look at different things in my life and like where I can make a change to like really give myself a better chance of not being sick all the time and having a really happy and healthy career. So I was dating a guy at the time who was doing some video stuff for Reward Gateway and still does actually, and his little sister worked at Reward Gateway, and they both kind of said to me, look, there's this role going, you should look at it because the skills that they list, you can do all of that, and you are doing all of that already, and you should have a think about it. And I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. My dad works in sales and marketing. My granddad worked in sales, so it was kind of in my blood. And I thought, I've always been interested by that. Like, let's give it a crack. And that's kind of what happened.
Absolutely love it. So I think there's some definite points I'd love to pick up on. Is so obviously like studying journalism and obviously being like a reporter and like covering topics in the world of media. And you kind of thought in the early days, these skills can be transferable, and 100% I agree, because I think at one point when I was a coach and trainer, I was saying like with SDRs, we are kind of like reporters, like we're researching companies' accounts to find out what's going on in their world. And then we're taking that information to, personalize messages and reach out to people. And from there, we're kind of reporting on what we're seeing in the industry with other companies, with other personas, and kind of like how other companies are acting towards this. And we're evangelizing the product, but not so much as a product, but, the news, the gospel of what's happening in the world of perhaps, employee engagement. But like with yourself, with these skills that you've taken from journalism, what kind of stuff do you, what transferable skills have you taken that you still kind of use today in your SDR role?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. So I think a lot of it is, how personable you can be with people and how you can be authentic as a person, because a lot of the stuff that you do in journalism when you're interviewing people who maybe are going through a hard time or, they have an interesting story to tell, like you said, it's about making people feel at ease in a way that they can open up to you and tell you stuff that's really important. And I think that there's a knack to that, which works for both journalism and also as an SDR. So I think that's the main one. But another thing that I think is very transferable is the writing element. So I love to write. That's my favorite thing. And I've been able to transfer that and write really creative outbound emails, which I think have helped me quite a lot. So I'd say that the writing part of it is part of that, but also, my understanding of social selling. I think, using my social media skills to transfer it into social selling is something that's been helpful. And also video. So 4 points. But yeah, video, I think is one as well. Being confident and able to speak on camera and create videos to use in my approach is something that I've done a lot of. Less so actually in COVID, because I just think people don't have the time to watch it. So I've just not been wasting my time. But long live video. Hopefully it's coming back. Hopefully by the time people are listening to this, I'll be back smashing the videos again. But yeah, I would say that those 4 main things.
I love it. And like you say, with like taking these skills of like presenting and also being on video, for a lot of SDRs that I work with or come across, there is that fear element of getting on a camera and being in front of somebody and sending out these videos. And it's a topic that we have covered in quite a few shows, but from somebody that was, doing it in a different profession and then coming here, how did you get over those nerves of speaking, recording, and then putting yourself out there? How did it work for you?
If I'm brutally honest, I don't think you ever get over the nerves from it. You kind of have to feel the fear and do it anyway. And I think if you're not doing things that scare you, you're probably not growing. So it's good, I think, to push yourself in that sense. I've never got over the nerves. I always get just before I'm about to record, and it's like, right, game face. It's way more terrifying doing live stuff. So like, for example, I did the Bournemouth Air show and absolutely catch my pants prior to that, and that was terrifying. So I think I'm never going to get over it. It's just finding ways of managing it. So having a sip of water. You were saying to me before we came on the show, if your mouth goes dry, have a sip of water, swill it around your mouth, gives you a fresh voice. Take a minute, like count to 3, breathe, just all of the cliche things that we're told to do, but they do actually work.
Indeed. And do you know what? I always get nervous like before coming on a show and an episode as well, and recording videos. And yeah, I agree with you. Like, you never get over it. But I think the more you push yourself out your comfort zone to do it, it becomes natural. You kind of know what to expect. And I think it's that uncertainty of the unknown of how is it going to be received. But at the end of the day, if you don't try, you're never going to know, right? So yeah, 100% agree with you.
Well, yeah, exactly.
And also like coming back to like with 100%. And with obviously mental health is something I'm a big advocate of. And you're kind of like saying that when you're going through your career and you're in the media or you're reporting on topics that, can affect you as well. Could you elaborate a bit further as to like what was going through your mind and like how you were managing it?
Yeah, so I'm always really honest about this. So, it was quite difficult reporting on people being murdered, raped, mutilated on the daily. I probably write about 13 stories a day, and I'd say that probably 12 of them would be quite brutal. So I think that plays a massive part in the way that you're feeling. And I think for me, I probably was a bit depressed, but didn't realise it. I was diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder as well, like in 2018. And I don't know how much that's got to do with, general life or what I was doing at the time, but I definitely think it probably played a big factor in that, as well as like lifestyle stuff as well. So like, sometimes I started work at 6 o'clock in the morning, and then the next week you'd start work at 5 p.m. So it does mess with your mind a little bit. So just lots of different factors, but yeah, it was quite brutal.
Yeah, no, I can almost relate to an extent because I am somebody that has suffered with depression. I've like had help with it and stuff. And again, I'm never ashamed of it. I think, to talk about mental health is a sign of strength. But I remember like in my career when I was working within local authority and I was like a housing benefit officer. So I had to meet a lot of people from the public who would come in to seek state welfare. And I heard a lot of horror stories. And I remember doing this like for 4 years, and I'd see people that lost their homes, people that lost family members, or, their business has completely gone under and it's really messed them up, and they're looking for support from the local authority to help them with their housing needs. And sometimes I would be able to help them. Sometimes they weren't qualified. I remember doing this day in, day out. You absorb an element of that, even though it's not to do with you directly, it weighs on your mind. And I remember waking up every day thinking like, I don't know if I can go into the office today and do this because it's, a grueling job. And then kind of recognizing myself that, my head's not right and I need to take some time to reflect, to think, is there something else that I want to do? But like, I think within an SDR world, we have a lot of anxieties. We have a lot of stresses that come into our life. We hit a lot of rejection, and sometimes we take it personally, like on the phones or emails, or we're trying to hit a target. And yeah, I'm even working with some SDRs at the moment where, we're worried about certain things. We're worried about how is stuff going to pick up? Are we going to hit our targets? Are we going to be able to do this? And I had one SDR saying, like, Neil, how do you deal with stress, with targets and pressure and all of this? And obviously I can give my 2 cents in, but for somebody that, has gone through anxiety, that has had stresses and stuff, and perhaps you face these today, how do you handle it, Charlotte? And are there any tips that you'd give to anybody out there?
Yeah, so I got 2 golden bits of advice actually from 2 people who've mentored me throughout my career at Reward Gateway. So Tony Whitehouse was the first, Tony Heavey, sorry. And Tony said to me, trust the process. And she said that to me on like day 1 of being an SDR. And honestly, that really helps, just trusting the process. If you're doing everything you can, there's literally nothing else you can do. And that feeds into my second bit of golden advice from Dom Taylor, which was control the controllables. And again, there's only so much that you can do. And I think that if you're kind to yourself and you remind yourself that if I'm giving 110% and I'm not getting that back yet, that's okay, because I'm doing my best. And I think that's the way that I kind of control that. And I know that might not necessarily be super helpful to someone who's super anxious, but I think you need to start somewhere with it, and you've got to be kind to yourself. So that's what I would say.
100%. I love those bits of advice. So, like, follow the process. And obviously, with following the process, sometimes if you're new to this, it may seem alien and you may not see the results straight away. And you could question it and you say, well, is this actually going to help me? Am I going to get there? But if you're consistent with that process and day in, day out, you follow it, the results will come, because it's been like, tried and tested. But I always say to them, like, be open to those processes. Feel free to challenge it as well. You don't just have to follow it blindly.
Yeah.
And the second point, in terms of, the way that I was saying it to the SDR the other day is with the controllable and the uncontrollable. So at times you can't control if somebody's going to cancel the meeting. You can't control when they're going to respond. You can't control if they're interested or they're not. Or you can't control if you get ghosted, because we get ghosted a hell of a lot sometimes on emails and stuff. So I always ask myself, and especially we can't sometimes control if we're going to be able to hit that target for the month. And I kind of said to this SDR, I was like, sometimes, all right, we're at the end of the month, we're not at target, but it is what it is. And I ask myself, what things can I control? What can I do right now to help me with that, with the things that I can't control? So if it's a prospect that has been ghosted, rather than sending them another email, which, I'm not getting a response, perhaps give them a call or try to reach out to them on another channel. If I'm still waiting for somebody to come back to say, yes, I'm going to do the meeting, then I ask myself, okay, what can I do to help that prospect out? So could I send them any more information? Are there any questions or concerns they've got right now which is stopping them move forward that I can help them with? And then also, if I'm thinking about, right, I haven't hit target for this month, what can I do today to help me out in the following month? So are there any old leads from like a quarter ago where I could start reaching out today to say, hey, we haven't spoken in a while, just wanted to know, does it make sense to catch up and continue our discussions? And then other things in terms of mental health is, I'm somebody who loves journaling and writing positive affirmations every morning. But I also like to reflect at the end of the day to see, right, what did I accomplish? So even if it hasn't been the greatest day and I haven't got through to prospects, did I have a great chat with my manager? Did I have a great lunch with my work team? Did I catch up with my friends and family on a break, or, speed dial friends? And doing this consistently, like trying to set my goals in the morning, go through the day and then reflect and, take breaks, do some meditation, eat healthily, make sure that I get, my 7 hours of sleep. These are things that may not immediately help with my anxiety, but it will help me regulate them and be more self-aware. So I think great solid bits of advice. And it is something I know that we're all stressed with, like when we work in sales, it's part and parcel of the job, right? But I think the last bit of advice I'd give is speak to people, because I think with lockdown, like me admittedly being in a room in my apartment for the last 12 months and not traveling, I haven't had that social interaction with people in the office. So I always say to my team, like, look, you can always like ping me for a Zoom or a Hangout, even if it's not work related, even if you just want to vent about how somebody's peed you off on something outside of life. I think having that opportunity to talk to people is something that can really help out with your anxieties and your mental health. What would you say?
Yeah, I'd fully agree with that. And I think that having the opportunity to now go back into the office a bit more regularly is really helping a lot of people to feel more engaged actually in what they're doing, which I think is playing a massive factor in it. I also think, just going back to what you were saying about connecting with old leads, and suggesting like a catch up. Like, while that's great, I'd kind of try and make yourself more valuable than a catch up. So like something that I've tried to do is make sure that in every touch point I'm adding value of some description. And I think that when I know that I'm constantly innovating in my process and I'm constantly adding value, that helps regulate my anxiety as well, because I'm like, look, there is physically nothing else I can be doing. Like I'm doing my all. And like I mentioned as well, I'm like massive on exercise through lockdown, and honestly, it's been a game changer for me. So I know a lot of people know this already, but it's changed my world. So I think that regularly exercising and being consistent in like all areas of your life is definitely something that helps.
100%. I'm a big advocate for fitness. Like at one point in the last few months, I was working 3 contracts at the same time, and I don't advise anybody to do that. But working with 3 different companies and 3 teams, it stressed the hell out of me. And I'd be starting my days at maybe like 6 a.m. because most of my clients are in Europe. So they're an hour ahead, and then I'd be finishing late. So I'd be waking up super extra early to go to the gym to get my energy. That's how I kind of used to see it, like a Superman thing. Like I'd go to the gym, get my energy in, and that would carry me through the day. But I realized as of last week, and admittedly to the guests on the show, like I had a bit of a burnout. It got to like last Wednesday last week, and I was on an online meeting, and somebody said, "Neil, are you okay? How are you doing?" You know, just generally as we do when we connect online. And I paused for a minute because I thought about that question. I was like, "No, I'm not okay."
Yeah.
And they're like, "What's up?" And I just said, I think I'm burnt out. I'm a little tired." And luckily that was with my manager, and he just said, "Look, do you know what? Take the day off. Mental health is important. Go take a break." So yeah, don't push yourself too much to the point that you're going to get burnt out. And I can recognize it now when it happens, and I know when to take breaks as well. And on my break, I went to the gym the next day because that's what I enjoy doing, and had a bit of fun there as well.
But if it's your hobby and it's
yeah, so like
release, like do it. Like, you know, I go to spin classes after work, and like they're like a nightclub, and honestly it gives me life. Like even if I'm knackered from a really long day, I will still go because it just gives me that like buzz to keep going. It's so important.
Yeah. Definitely. It is, because it can be a release of tension, but you can also add in those endorphins to, like, you know, balance yourself out a bit, and doing something, you know, that gives you longevity. I always value it. So anything that's adding minutes to my life, I'm 100% down for it as well. So we digressed a little bit there, but I love the topic as well. But like when you were going, like transitioning from like media going into sales and coming against like Reward Gateway, what was it like when you joined a tech SaaS company, and kind of what were your key learnings, and like, you know, any advice for anybody else that's kind of starting out as well?
Yeah, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. I found it really hard because I'd gone from like one world into a completely different world. And like, you know, when you're working in a newsroom, it's not very corporate. I swear like a trooper, always have done, still did, and then was like, oh, actually, I work in a corporate environment now. Maybe should bring that in a little bit. Still figuring that bit out. But, you know, it was quite a culture shock for me in that sense. But, you know, like Reward Gateway, being an employee engagement company, you know, and specialising in benefits and recognition, is obviously an amazing place to work. And I am very lucky in that respect. So, you know, I work with amazing people who really helped guide me through that process. But I think what I'd say is that, you know, it takes a bit of time to get in the swing of things and to get the knack of sales. And it took me probably, I'd say, a good 6 months to really think, okay, yeah, I get this now. So I'd say give it time. Like, you know, if you go in on the first week and you think, what am I doing? That's fine. You're not going to get it straight away. It's a process. It takes time. It takes embedding. You know, give yourself that grace period. But I think something that's worth doing, and that my managers always did with me, is they always checked in every week. So we do something called 15-5, and I don't know if you've heard of 15-5, but it's like a weekly check-in, and it asks you to sense check your week. What went well this week? Maybe what was your challenges? You know, what would you like to speak up about? You know, what's your focus for the coming week? And that was something that really helped me, actually. And you know, if you don't do that in your organization, it's something you can do yourself anyway. Because it made me think about, okay, this is what I'm grateful for and what I've done well. This is where maybe I could improve, and this is what I'm going to spend my next 5 business days doing. And that really, really helped me, especially to start with.
I love it. So again, like you said, like it can be a completely different new world, and you're right. It does sometimes take a little bit of time to like settle in and just like practice stuff. And I always say like to my team, it's okay to fail. You know, like fail
Yeah.
fast and learn from it, and then obviously, always looking for that feedback. And with that 15-5, like kind of checking in and like analyzing yourself, like, hey, where could you improve? I think that's a really good thing to do as well. My question to you, like, so I'm kind of going back into the world of managing like a team, and I do regular one-to-ones with my team to find out how their week's been, what are they working on, where can I help best to help them. And sometimes I find we have reps that, you know, they pretty much know what they're doing. And sometimes I ask, like, how can I help? And they're like, and with some reps, they will say, like, I need help on my cold calling, or I need help with my discovery call. And also, there are reps that are like, will say, I don't really know. There's nothing really right now. And I always worry, like, to your point, I always want to add value to those sessions. But, you know, sometimes they can't think of where they need help, and it might not be till later in the week. But any tips for a manager, for a rep who feels they're okay, but still being able to check in how I could help them or add value? What advice would you give to me?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that, there needs to be a level of self-awareness from the rep, first of all, about, nobody's perfect 100% of the time. And like, it is a valuable exercise to really look over your process and think where you need help. But that being said, I am sometimes that rep where I'm like, I don't know, because sometimes you don't know. And I think something that we do at Reward Gateway, actually, which helps us all think about, where we're at quite clearly, and it's a constant process rather than just once a week, is we have a Slack channel which is dedicated purely to sharing things that may have gone well, may have not gone so well, and then we ask each other for feedback on that. And that's a really good way of uncovering throughout the week those specific pains. So I think that I'd suggest having a constant feedback stream is something that would probably help those things come to the surface. Another thing that might be useful is thinking about different themes within like an SDR's world. So an exercise we did recently was we sat down and we thought about all the different tasks that we have as an SDR and how we piece them into our week. So something that you could do is like go through with your reps, like all the different things that they do, all their different tasks. So calling, emails, videos, whatever. And maybe just each week you take a bit of a deeper dive into those and really talk about maybe a specific lead where they've done X, Y, and Z, and then together you can kind of work on it and go through that process together. Because I think when you've got a bit more of a micro view on a process, it helps you as a manager to uncover those specific things. Whereas if you just ask a big, bold question, I mean, we had something ridiculous like 35 tasks that we do in a week. It's like saying, you don't know which of those you need help on because there's just so much in your brain anyway.
I freaking love that. I absolutely love it. So those are two cool ideas. So like the Slack one of like sharing what's working and what's not, and then having like a team debrief or discussion and collab on that. And I think that can also help generate people to maybe post stuff in there, because again, I don't know why I may need help, but seeing my team do certain things, I'm like, oh, actually, do you know what? That's something I've been struggling with, or do you know what? I've actually got a cool way that I handle that, and getting everybody to, put it through. And I think that's also the second point, like the different sort of tasks that we have in the week, because like we're emailing, we're calling, we're social selling, we're sending out videos, we're doing all this sort of stuff. And this, for me, it's just like, I know how to do this stuff because I've done it as an SDR and I train others to do it. But picking maybe a topic of that and having a deeper dive into it, to go through that process with that person, and then help them understand like how do they make it up in their day. Because I think a lot of times with new SDRs, they come in and said, right, I know I need to email, I need to call, I know I need to do time management, but like what's the best way to structure my day? And I think taking that deep dive approach can help them understand, or help them come to the conclusion as to where it makes sense to put it in the day, but also dissect it a little bit further as well. And to kind of come on to this, and this is just me being a bit selfish, apologies, but like in terms of like a good SDR manager, what kind of qualities do you think help people? What good qualities does an SDR manager have to help somebody like you grow? Where do you most want support from a manager?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think it's going to be different for different people, right? And I don't know if you've done insights training, but I'm super blue. So that means I'm really process driven and like a bit I'm not analytical whatsoever, but I like process and like things being in their place. So for me, it was always helpful to have a set structure and be goal orientated. But I think what makes a good manager is someone that can see other people for what they are and then adapt the way that they manage them to suit them, because it's not going to be one size fits all, because we're all different. And I think that's what has made our team successful. And something else that I think is having a bit of banter. Like, you know, one of the great things about that channel that I was just talking about is that we throw a bit of banter in there as well. I remember I was calling this lead and this woman who was a receptionist answered the phone, and I genuinely thought she was a robot. So I didn't say anything. Because, you know, like when they answer the phone, it was Barclays that I was
like an automated response.
Yeah, she went, "Hello, welcome to Barclays." And I thought it was a robot, so I didn't say anything. So I was waiting for the next bit, and she went, "Welcome to Barclays." And this went on for like a minute, and she went, "Hello, you phoned us." And because we record our calls, I shared it in the channel, and we all laugh about it. Like, and having that banter as a manager and as a team, you know, that's good for your mental well-being. It's good for your team as like making it a cohesive team. You know, we celebrate together, we lose together, we have banter together. And I think that's the best thing that you can do for your team, is really bring them together like that.
I agree. Like, everybody is built up differently. Everybody like operates in a different way. Similar to yourself, I'm led by processes. I want everything documented. I want to know from A to B. Whereas other people, they tend to like to go in a nice flow. So they may do prospecting a different way. They may run their DiscoCalls way. And I always try to find like what ignites them and try and focus on that to like bring it out more so. And yeah, having banter is 100%. Like, I'm all about happy selling, right? And enjoying like the F-ups or the successes. And something we used to do at a former company, which we did employee engagement as well, is we would talk about our F-ups in the week. You know, like every Monday we talk about, okay, what went well the week before, but where did you F up? And, you know, like walk us through it. And we laugh about it. So if a prospect had, you know, objected to us and we completely screwed up the call, or, you know, we sent the wrong email and it wasn't, you know, properly automated with the dynamic tags and somebody completely ripped us to shreds about it, would bring it up, A, for the learning aspect of it, but B, to laugh not at the person, but laugh with the person. To also highlight, you know what, it's all right to mess up. Don't worry about those sort of things. And I love your little performance there with the voice. You did that really well. So, like, obviously with Jen, have you done acting as well?
No, just dramatic as a person.
I love it. So like, obviously, working within Reward Gateway, like within your role at the moment, like what's the typical aspiration for yourself, like in the future? Like, you don't have to have a definitive answer now. With a lot of people, they want to go into sales, but they sometimes may want to explore other departments and stuff. But for you, like, how do you want to progress in your sales career?
I mean, that's such a great question. And I think that often the SDR role is looked at something that's a stepping stone into other things. But I've been an SDR for 3 years and I'm having the best career 3 years that I've had, and I'm really enjoying it. So I'm in no rush, but I'm also really keen to like make sure I am progressing, so making the role my own. So always looking for ways that I can innovate or do things differently, or, you know, just really maximize what's available to me in that role. I think to answer your question properly, like looking to the future and what I want to do, because of my journalism background, I find marketing quite interesting, and I'd like to kind of dabble with that a little bit. So we have like a smarketing team, sales and marketing together, and like we collaborate a lot.
Smarketing, love it.
Yeah, I really enjoy that side of my role, and I also really enjoy speaking with people, which again is like goes back to my journalism thing. So, you know, if I had more of an opportunity to perhaps work in like a community manager type thing, or, you know, doing that kind of stuff, that I think that would be something that I'd like to do. But I think that often like the people who are most successful are people who go and do something that's not their role, and then that becomes their role. So I think I need to have a proper think about it, but that's kind of the direction I'm thinking.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And so again, some very interesting points in that piece there. So like where you're saying like you've been doing the SDR position like for 3 years and you're really enjoying it. I think sometimes there's this pressure, and I don't know who sets it, but perhaps companies copying other companies. But some people may say like you have to be an SDR for at least a year to 2 years, and then you have to move on to the next role. And I'll be honest with you, Charlotte, like when I was an SDR and people said, hey, do you want to move up? I said, do you know what? I'm kind of enjoying just doing this and I'd love just to do this forever. And I know a lot of people that just stay in the SDR position like throughout their sales career because they really frigging love it. Like what advice would you give to people where they feel that they have to get somewhere by a certain timeline and then move on, but perhaps they're enjoying, like similar to yourself, like you're doing this SDR position? What advice would you give them?
I think you have to ask yourself, why? Like, why are you feeling that pressure? Is it something that you're putting on yourself? Is it something that other people are putting onto you? And then I think you really need to like sit down, dissect that, understand all the different things that are playing into it, and work out what is most important to you. If making other people happy is most important to you, then crack on, go and do something else. But if being happy in yourself, enjoying your role is something that's important, then you do you. Like, I just think that, you know, and if COVID's taught us anything, it's to just be yourself unapologetically and only do the things that you want to do. And I think that, you know, don't be pressured by what other people are doing, and, you know, do your own thing. Like, I'm 29 and I'm an SDR, and I think a lot of people would be like, oh, an SDR is for when you're 21, 22. It's not. Just go and do what you enjoy, and the rest will follow. And I think that if you're being authentic and doing what you want to do, then you'll be successful regardless. So I'd ignore what other people are saying.
100% legit agree with that. And I think I kind of went through it this year. So being like an SDR trainer, I get to coach people. I get to like do training and stuff like that. And then recently with the new job that I've taken on as SDR manager, my own fear was, Neil, you're a founder of a company. Now you're going back into a manager position. How is the world going to perceive that? And yeah, my anxieties hit up, and like I was worried what people say, but then I realized I don't give a damn what people think that, you know, don't really know me. I just do what I want to do. But one of the like conceited reasons why I wanted to do it is because I wanted to get back into the world of actually in a company doing that stuff rather than just training them to do it. I wanted to be a part of it. And most recently, sneakily, my team don't know, but I've been prospecting as well.
Hey.
So what I'm teaching them, I'm doing the sequences, I'm calling up people, and I'm having fun doing it. And somebody responded to my email the other day. They weren't interested, and now's not the right time. But I was excited. I got a response on my email. And I was like, oh, it's not work-related email about stuff in the team. It's actually a prospect talking back to me. That was freaking fun. And I love it. So I agree with you. Like, do the stuff that makes you happy. Don't worry about what people may think. It's how you feel about it and how happy it makes you, you know? But yeah, like with, and also like you said, like obviously with your background in journalism, like marketing's kind of floated your boat. And I love that. I've known a lot of great SDRs that have been SDRs and then become great marketeers. What is it about the marketing element that kind of stands out to you and like, you know, piques your interest, Charlotte?
I think for me, it's more about like live events and the opportunity to connect with our customers and our prospects and, you know, just chat to people. Like I can chat all day. So, you know, from that perspective, I think that's what excites me. But also like, I think there's loads of opportunities to innovate and like look at, you know, how we can entice people in and how we can set trends in the field that we're in, how we can be the market leader, you know, which we are. Like there's so many different things that you can do, you know, the opportunity to include video, you know, there's so many different avenues that you can go down that I find really interesting. And I think, you know, we have a great blog, which our team work on. We have a great content library, which they work on. And, you know, the way that that's written is it really appeals to our audience. And I love that side of it as well. So I just think there's just so much to it. And, you know, when I'm thinking about my career from a long-term perspective, you know, I appreciate I'm probably not going to be an SDR forever, so I need to think about that. When I think about doing marketing, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, like that excites me. So I think that's what it is for me.
I love that. And you're right, like with the world of marketing, like another reason why I took on this job is being like the SDR manager. We have an inbound team and we have an outbound team, and I have to work with the VP of sales and I have to work with the CMO. And I kind of see myself as like the little bridge in between where I get insights as to what marketing campaigns are going on, what webinar, like we're recently doing a webinar and I'm behind it, I'm posting it on my LinkedIn. I'm helping create sequences for it. I'm sitting down with the marketing content team to see the case studies, the videos, because selfishly I'm thinking this is the stuff my SDR should be knowing about because they're going to be sharing and evangelizing it, but they should also learn the content rather than I'm just going to share the content, the case study, but read it. understand what challenges the customer's putting through. Like marketing have worked on this. This is a great asset. And again, like I always feel that sales and marketing, they are two different departments, but they're working towards the same goal, which is, to generate revenue. So it makes sense for us to work. And I've had a hell of a lot of fun with some crazy VPs of marketing and CMOs. And it's kind of like a bit of a break sometimes from the commercial, serious side of sales and closing deals. Like marketing, I can kind of see as fun. So yeah, I agree with you. And again, to guests and listeners, what my tips are is sometimes my team members say, like, do you know what, marketing floats my boat. It's something I maybe want to pursue. And I advise them, go sit on a meeting, go speak to the heads of marketing, ask them about their day. What's their day-to-day life like? What things do they get up to? Like, how did they get into marketing? Go learn about it. I encourage it. But from your point of view, Charlotte, like for anybody that's thinking about different departments or maybe going to marketing and they're an SDR today, what advice would you give to them?
I think very similar to what you just said, actually, because if you can just make yourself known to people in other departments and, be useful and do things that, yeah, okay, you're an SDR, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't work on something with marketing, like branch out, get stuck in, offer to help, offer to do things that are outside of your job spec. And I think the rest will follow in that sense. But, and that's a good way of like figuring out if it is actually something you like as well, because you might look at it and think, oh yeah, I want to do that. But actually the reality might be very different. So I think that, just make yourself useful, make yourself valuable. It's what we do with our prospects. So there's no reason why we shouldn't do it with people internally as well.
100% salute on that. Love it. And also something which is kind of coming off flight sales to an extent is something which is quite dear to you in terms of health and something that you've gone through in life and something I'm always scared to pronounce because you are the expert on this, but it's something that we did want to discuss today and for you to share with.
Yeah.
And I'm going to shut up right now, but I'd love to hand it over to you. Like, what is this topic about? How did it affect your life? And, what can you teach us about it?
You chickened out of saying it. Right. So I want this to be uplifting and happy, right? And this is a story that I've shared with people I work with. And the reason I'm sharing it is because, if you're in a career that you love, like it doesn't matter what life throws at you, you can still crack on and do well. So I was diagnosed with a condition called fibromyalgia in 2019, which is a chronic pain and fatigue condition. So, I mentioned before that I've been off sick for like 3 months and I thought about what I wanted to do with my life to sort of help myself get a bit better. I had it then, but I didn't know. And the reason I wanted to share this today is because, there's been so many things about working in sales that have helped me stay motivated during times when maybe I've not been so well. It's triggered by stress. So you'd think that working in sales wouldn't be okay, but it is. It's strange. I think having a goal to work towards makes you feel more motivated and it gives you that get up and go when you may feel rough. I just wanted to share that with everyone. And, there are going to be people out there who maybe have been through similar and sales can be tough, like life can be tough. It is what it is. But, working for a good organization and keeping that goal in mind is something that's really helped support me through it.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that insight. And you're right, I did chicken out. Could you say it for me one more time and I'm going to say it back?
Yeah, absolutely. It's fibromyalgia.
Fibromyalgia.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you for that.
And
I'm going to put some links in for our show notes so that if anybody would like to learn more about this as well, by all means go into it. And as you said, Charlotte, like something like in life and sales and stress, we can get stressed. It can sometimes make us sick as well. But I agree with you. I've gone through a lot of traumatic things in my life, admittedly, and sales is kind of like the mentality of my sales and what I've learned has helped me through those. And I've been able to transfer some of the things that I've learned in sales to help myself out. So I can 100% agree with you. But again, it's been absolutely great to have you on the show today and would love to get you back as a future guest as well. But before we do go, what 3 bits of advice would you give to a younger version of yourself, of somebody who's just about to embark on this sales development career?
What a great question. Okay, so I think I've already said it, but I'm going to say it again. Trust the process. I think that is the most important thing. Trust the process, trust yourself. It's going to be hard sometimes, but if you trust the process, if you keep going, keep grafting, you will get results. So number one. Number two, never stop innovating. I think there have been times for me where maybe I've got lazy. I can admit it. I've got lazy and I've trusted the process too much, and I've not thought outside of the box, and I've not innovated enough. So I think constantly innovating, constantly questioning, where could I tweak this to make this better? What could I do differently? Is there a piece of tech that supports this? Like, never settle. I think that's number two. And number three, exercise. Let's say that one. I think that has been one of the things that has given me the best kick up the arse, is just being consistent with exercise, because not only has it helped me in life, it's helped me feel well again. It's also helped me massively with my mindset, and then how that plays into work. And also, you know, if you're lying in bed a bit insomniac, but thinking about your deals, if you've smashed an hour on the spin bike, there's every chance that you might just pass out and go to sleep. So that would be my third bit.
I love it. So like, trust the process, always looking to be innovating and like gear things up and change it up. And yeah, you know, like health is wealth. So 100%, these are things that we can do. These are things that we can control. So great bits of advice. And are there any shout outs that you'd like to give out on today's show, Charlotte?
Yeah, I've got, do you know what? I've got so many, but I'm going to give a few. I'm going to give one to Anna Mana. So Anna is my ex-boyfriend's sister who worked at Reward Gateway, who encouraged me to apply. It's changed the game for me. Thank you, Anna. I would say Lewis Quache and Tony Heavey, because they hired me and took a chance on me, and have been fantastic mentors. And I'd say Dom Taylor, who's our Director of Enterprise. I work directly with Dom and has been an amazing mentor, is the most patient human being I've ever come across. And it's also just great fun to work with.
Absolutely love it. So a lot of sales love and shout outs there. Thank you so much for that. And for like any of the guests that are watching or listening in, if they wanted to connect with you on LinkedIn to kind of pick your brain on any of the topics discussed today, are you okay with that, Charlotte?
Yes, hit me up. Also, if you want to find out more about fibromyalgia, I actually run an Instagram account where I've created a community. Sorry, I've got to get it in there, which is at fibromyalgia_.
Yeah, get it in. What's the at handle?
Yeah, it's at fibromyalgia.
Say that one more time. What's this?
Sorry, there's a delay. It's at fibromyalgia_girl.
At fibromyalgia_girl. Okay. Yeah. So also, like, after this, like, please send me the at handle, and I'll definitely put that into the show notes, and we're happy to advocate anything that you're supporting and doing. So by all means, listeners and watchers, get following. But Charlotte, it's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you and sharing your sites with the rest of the world. So thank you so much for that. And as a reminder for everybody else that's listening or watching in, make sure that you please rate us in your local podcast platform so we can get the news out there. Make sure that you also subscribe to our YouTube channel, and please share, comment and like, and get this great story out there for other SDRs around the world. But Charlotte, Neal, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on board. I wish you a great week and great summer weekend, and happy selling.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Neil.
Thank you so much for listening to our show today. If you work in tech sales and have a career or story that you'd love to share, then please email us at podcast@happyselling.io and we'll be in contact to book in a show.